So I will start out this video by saying I have a little bit of a confession to make.
Oh, go on.
This is not my favorite of the films of the person that wrote the book.
Okay. Michael Crichton's films, or are you talking about Stephen?
Well, neither actually, but in this case, Michael Crichton.
Okay. And
I feel like there should
I
be more
no,
there.
I'm sorry, I was just like sorry, I thought you were going to uh, like say which one is your favorite or
Yes, no,
um
I can do that. So I actually, looking at Michael Crichton's biography of books into films, I probably like Sphere a little better
mm,
than Jurassic Park. But I'm a little schmaltzy, so that's probably why it's more of a romance than anything else.
mm, I I see. It, that's quite all right. I mean, not everything nothing appeals to everyone at the end of the day.
It's true,
Um
but you were very excited to talk about Jurassic Park for everything is gay, even the straight stuff,
mm,
for kind of the childhood nightmares portion of things. So I want you to kind
yes.
of do the intro to why Jurassic Park, why the eponymous best movie of 1993, as it were, or the book. Is it the book or the film came out in 93? I think the book came out in 1990. The film came out in 93.
Mm. Well, I'm not surprised that there's some slight confusion over that because from what I recall of some background trivia for this, Steven Spielberg was a massive fan um, of Michael Crichton, and he was interested in doing a film adaptation even before the book had been released.
Uh,
Um, so if people think that film companies and directors auctioning the rights to something even before it's out is a modern trend, it isn't. It's been a big thing for many decades now.
yeah,
But I mean,
yeah.
sorry, go on.
I
You were gonna
couldn't tell if that was for the Andromeda Strain or for the Great Train Robbery, but one of those two were the two big films he was known for at that point. So
Mm, yes. So yeah, Spielberg was massive fan of it. Not, and to be honest, his instincts were completely correct here because, I mean, look how much of a cultural zeitgeist Jurassic Park went on to be, and how even to this day it remains like a leading sci. I think you would term it as a science fiction franchise, although it's always dabbled quite a bit into like a blend of sort of like historic fantasy slash horror and thriller as well.
I would
Um,
say it's a science fiction film because
mm,
almost all of Michael Crichton's work is about science fiction, and a lot of Steven Spielberg's work is about science fiction, pretty honestly.
yeah,
So
yes. So, little fact about my past and such. When I was a kid, I was a massive dinosaur nerd. I loved them. I had a whole herd of little plastic dinosaurs that even when I was getting older, I still had with me and everything. So dinosaurs were really my thing as a kid. Um, and then one evening, my great aunt was babysitting for us, and she said, "Oh, there's a dinosaur film." So she put on Jurassic Park, and I proceeded to get traumatized by the very opening scene where that guy gets mauled by the velociraptor in the truck pen, whatever the hell it was in.
yeah,
Um, yes, I'd never seen anything quite like that before, and I went to bed terrified that night. But it didn't break my love of dinosaurs, but it certainly gave a new perspective on it. Um, and even to this day, actually rewatching the scene as well, it's a hard scene to watch. They really did well with putting it across because of the fact you don't see a lot of stuff. It's left to the imagination, and that is such a potent way of, well, I suppose it's tell not show in this case.
and what's interesting is that that's one of the kind of big differences between the books and the film too. I haven't finished the book yet. I have it. I have it in my pile of books to read because I realized I'd seen the film. I'd never actually like read the book.
Mm.
So the deaths in the book are much more gory, much more horror, has a very body horror element to it. And there's something about scientific accuracy of dismemberment that makes that happen. Like Michael Crichton got a little too into the science for this book. He's very much like a Mr. Hammond in that way.
uh, you see, that's interesting, and I wonder if the angle he was coming from was to try and portray the dinosaurs as a very real kind of threat, like a very primal instinct sort of fear, or whether, as you say, he just got really into the whole thing and wanted to do something that is a bit more horror genre as well, mixing in with the story.
I think you see across his books, especially the ones that haven't been translated to film, that he sees science as both a real positive, but also sees the horror of it all. Like Prey is basically about swarms of nanobite killer bees, for instance. Congo is about like a volcano versus gorilla sort of thing. I think Michael Crichton's work really lends itself to more horror science fiction, but when you make it, his plot is so good that you can go from horror to adventure and pivot really well. Um, Here's a fun fact that I know about Jurassic Park, or maybe it's a sequel to Jurassic Park. I can't remember which exactly, but Steven Spielberg. No, it was actually it was a different film, so never mind. It's a fun fact that I think I should share at a different film time. But one of the films that Spielberg worked on in this time, he took a break from and he went to work on Casper um, because he needed a break from what other work he was doing. So Steven Spielberg knows how to work across genre, I guess is what I will say about that.
Casper versus Jurassic Park. That, I'm not, I can't even start to imagine how that would work in a believable fashion. But then again, Scooby Doo has had so many unique crossovers of itself. Obviously, it can work if they really wanted to.
Yeah. So besides the absolute terror of that
Mm,
opening scene, which is very brutal, even the Lego video game for the Jurassic Park series, which is phenomenal because you play like all the movies across the franchise. Um,
mm.
Besides the opening scene of horror and carnage, what else about Jurassic Park does it for you?
It's a right mixture of things. It's going into the old style of sweeping cinematic visuals and such. Spielberg had such a fun time, obviously, directing this and creating these very imaginative vistas that you end up seeing. Like the the way that the music starts to swell as the park goers enter the park for the first time and they see the all of the dinosaurs living freely. Well, I say living freely, roaming about
Freely, quote
across.
unquote.
Yes, the living park attractions, enjoying the grass, but the way that
Yeah.
they're just there and the music swells and such. There's a it's interesting that there's a really good balance between captivating, almost blockbuster level visual design and orchestral design and the horror elements. It's such a interesting switch between back and forth of them. But anyway, both
No,
sides
yeah.
of the coin, both sides of the coin, the horror and tension and the thriller aspects and the sort of like tender life is precious moments like you see with the baby dinosaurs and such. It really, every bit of it captures it. And it was such an interesting concept to come out with. Because at the time when in the early 90s, things were really taking off with sort of like Western commercialization, people really getting into sort of like all of this sort of like funky science fiction um attractions and what have you. So for the film to come out and go on about we've reached a point where our science can recreate dinosaurs and we're going to put them in the theme park. Especially for the American theme park lovers, you could fully imagine that happening.
Yeah.
Um, it was such a perfect blend of all of these different elements, all of these strong actors as well, that it almost is an iconic blockbuster. Um, and I
I
think
mean,
to
it
this day,
is, yeah.
I think it holds up pretty well to this day. Um, I'm not sure it's an afternoon kind of movie, although I'm sure some people
I would
do
I would
see it
disagree
this
with
way.
you on that. I think it is a perfect afternoon movie, honestly.
Oh yeah, just like
Yeah.
Scar, Great Aunt Maple, as you put that it on and watches the velociraptors go peekaboo.
I mean, this is one of those films where I acknowledge it as a blockbuster, but I can kind of turn my brain off because I can see it as the film it is. Like, there's the danger of the scenes at night, yes, but there's so much of that sweeping vista throughout the day. So the score is also by John Williams, who was the kind of score celebre in the 90s. I mean, this is really true 90s blockbuster. This is really, when you say summer blockbuster in the 90s, this is kind of the best of it.
Mm,
Yeah.
in- indeed, and I do think it has stood the test of time. Um, yes, they've come up with all sorts of like new discoveries about dinosaurs since then. Um, the various tastes of the public have changed. It's gone a bit more into the action, like they have with the most recent adaptations, because it wasn't always like action based. It was more like sort of thriller where people are struggling to survive rather than sort of we gotta take the dinosaurs down. But still stands the test of time. Um,
Yeah.
and but it,
Oh, yeah.
I suppose like the thing about the violence, it it's sort of like with the same thing with like how it was with Power Rangers, Mutant Ninja Hero Turtles, and such. It was that period when there was a bit more prevalence of violence around. I think before there was a little bit of a pushback not to have it so open for family entertainment and such.
Yeah, and there's something about this violence here. I think it's best kind of showcased. I talked a little bit about how it's much more violent in the book. It's very pointedly violent in the book, actually, in a lot of ways. But when you play the Lego video game for Jurassic Park, especially, you really get the sense of it's more about a puzzle, it's more about survival. Um, it's more kind of about science has gone awry more than it is necessarily about like shooting dinosaurs. There's a couple famous scenes in the book that don't make it in the film that are about literally people punching dinosaurs to survive. Um, but you don't really need that here. The iconic scene that I think is probably just as scary as that opening scene with the two kids in the rain, like surviving the T-Rex. In the book, that scene is actually during the day, so it's more terrifying in a different way, in that you can actually see everything happening, as opposed to like the dinosaur like sneaking up on you. Which I think is kind of an interesting change in a way.
Mm. You have to ask yourself, do you think it would have been as without, ironic, iconic without the change? Like, the, there's a certain, by theming it in the rain at night and stuff like that, it's sort of leading into the whole fears of primalness and what is rustling in the bushes. I
And
mean,
I,
what is
I
rushing?
yeah,
Yeah, so gone.
no, I don't think it would have been. I think this is one of the things where if you really like to look at how things get adapted to different mediums, the changes made from Jurassic Park, the book, where it's more about the chaos of it, it's more about personal responsibility versus like greed and corporatization. If you watch like Westworld, which is another Michael Crichton project that he did in 1975, which might be why people were so excited about Jurassic Park. Um, this is not sexy Westworld, by the way. It's the original Westworld. from 75, not the sexy HBO update. But a lot of Crichton's work is much more gritty than adventure driven. And so to have Steven Spielberg come in and go, okay, these are the really important beats of this to me, and really make it into an auteur moment. Crichton was still a producer, so he still had his hand in the pie. He wasn't like hands off after he got his like 1.5 million or whatever it was for the bids. Um, but it's an interesting look at because it changes some things that I really like the change of. So kind of like I think one of my favorite things is that the daughter kind of saves stuff in the film, right? Like the daughter, I think her name is Lexi, right? Lexi and Tim is the scrolling going. Yeah. So Tim and Lex are completely different in the books. And so I actually like the change to have her be the one that kind of saves them and gets the power restored in the park and have this great female hero moment. And it works really
Mm,
well because she's sort of paired with Laura Dern's character, Ellie Sattler. So, yeah, I think that Jurassic Park, what gets me excited about it, besides the dinosaurs and the early CGI, which is miraculous, is that the adaptation of it is so strong. Like there were some great choices made, and there was enough adaptation material at work that you can make sequels out of it, and they don't feel tired. I know you can make too many sequels, so I don't want to say you never feel tired of it, but I feel like if you give enough space between the sequels, like this is something that can captivate the imagination over and over again because dinosaurs
mm,
are terrifying, but also this very gratifying idea. Like I can see why. I can see why people would get lost in the romance of this death park. It's really a death park, is what it is.
mm.
It's OSHA violated, but it is a death park of dinosaurs, and that's okay.
I thought of a good way, from my perspective, to sum up what this film's core themes really are about, and that's the wonder and the terror of ancient dinosaurs. You've got the wonder of them, like their very existence, their majesticness, and such as that, and being able to live in the same moment, even at with cloned dinosaurs. And then you have the terror, the very real life threat of what these dinosaurs will come. So it's an interesting balance between the wonder and the fear that they generate. Um, and the fact and also the fact of us trying to bottle up something from a different era and make it sort of presentable and commercial, as it were.
Well, and I love the twist feels really authentic. I know that Michael Crichton did quite a bit of work and learned about science, so there's a lot of authenticity to the work. I love the kind of shoe drop of, wait, how are they having babies? We made them all female. And then the realization like in the pit of your stomach, like the deep, dark realization of, oh shit, we gave them amphibian DNA and amphibians can do that. And now things are real bad. Like it was bad before, now it's real bad. It really adds stakes to
Mm,
getting off the island, but also if you pay attention in the beginning of the movie, the dinosaurs, the little raptor creatures, are already on the mainland. And I think it's like
mm,
Costa Rica or something like that. So like the danger's already here, but like you have to watch it a few times to really get the concept of, hey, this danger, like we've kind of screwed ourselves a little bit. And I really
mm,
like that kind of the twist of it all.
mm. Yes, there's a few different points like that. Um, the line of "life will find a way." It's portrayed as like something awe-inspiring, but actually, when you read that again and look at it from a different angle, life will find a way. Life will find a way to get out of your control and take back its own will, as we see with the dinosaurs escaping, and as we see with them getting loose and time and time again in throughout the franchise. I mean, if you in this franchise, if you have dinosaurs, they will eventually get out of your control and go bananas. or at least follow what their instincts are.
I was gonna say they don't know they're going bananas. They're just doing what, like, I guess
Yeah.
technically dinosaurs are birds, which is weird, but like I always see them as lizards because they make them look like lizards, really is what they do.
Mm,
But Godzilla is a lizard too, so who knows? Anyways, the
yeah.
moral of the story is lizards are destructive and we shouldn't own them. I think that's the big moral overarching from Jurassic Park and such.
My other half would probably agree with you there in
Does
terms of owning lizards.
have you been asking your other half for like a lizard that you can like name after a Jurassic Park character?
No, no, I don't want a lizard. I don't want a snake or anything like that in the house. But he will not go near any of them. Even like the reptile house at the zoo, he'll be like, nope, nope, I'm not going in there. So I suppose Jurassic Park would be his ultimate horror theme park if it did
I,
exist.
my horror is its OSHA violations and the fact that there are no bathrooms on like you can't stop once you're on that little trail around the park. Like what if something happens as your Jeep breaks down? Also, this is a great like movie for product placement because like the Jeep is such a seamless product in this film. Jurassic Park really it doesn't work without the Jeep. Like the hoverball cars in the later films are really cool, but something about this
Oh, the
particular
hamster ball.
version, yeah, something about this particular Jeep really resonates with me as sort of an outdoor vehicle, but also just like it gives me the like vintage Jeep feels, and I really appreciate that.
The thing is, this movie was quite on point with a number of things that we would see becoming continuously more prevalent. I was mentioning before about the commercialization and the fact that the movie was from like the early 90s. It was the start of when I believe the Friends craze had started at that point and was well underway. Um, Other sort of like big Western like cable shows were really going at it. The big blockbusters are coming out, so it was quite on point. And then it was like even more on point when there's talk about, the sheer abundance of sort of like, here's our brand. This is what our merchandise is going to be. This is how we're going to market our prehistoric creatures. And like little points that they had in the film, sort of like corporate espionage of other companies want the embryos as well so they can do their own thing. And then, um, oh, what was the other thing? There was a throwaway throwaway line from someone else about more merchandising, but I forget about it. But you would see that become even more so in the last couple of decades. So I think they were actually a bit ahead of the game with what they were
Yeah,
showing.
yeah. Friends starts in '94, by the way. So right after Jurassic
Oh,
Park ends, you get Friends. It's a whole thing. But it is interesting because that's kind of the great thing about a blockbuster, but also kind of the sucky thing about a blockbuster is this idea of how much can you get out of the property. I mean, it's part of why people hated Batman and Robin that would come out in '97 because that was if you start here with Jurassic Park and you end with the toyetic film Batman and Robin, which we talked a little bit about, they're sort of the two sides of the blockbuster coin of what kind of revenue can you really get from something for good or for worse. And Jurassic Park approaches it with a lot of intelligence and I think heart. Because there's something for the adventure person, there's something for the scientist, there's something for the dinosaur lover, the person that fears dinosaurs, there's something for the person that just wants a vacation. Um, there's something for the
hmm.
person that loves the actors, actually. Like, Jeff Goldblum had been a star for many years at this time. You've got, I have a list of the cast here. Like, the cast is like world renowned Richard Attenborough, Sam Neill, Laura
Mm.
Dern, BD Wong, Wayne Knight, who I don't know if he was as big at the time. Like Samuel L. Jackson is in it. Like this is also kind of a movie for if you like to follow a certain type of career.
Mm.
Like if you stuck through Jeff Goldblum in The Fly, you're gonna like Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park, sort of thing.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it is a great movie to sort of like look at this point in time for these people, what they were up to.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't be surprised if like I haven't really done it myself, but I think there are people that will pretty much just go when they find someone, they'll just start looking at what they've been doing throughout their career and go basically watching their back catalog, their filmography, just to see what they've been up to and what they've been doing. Which could be interesting itself because Samuel L. Jackson has done a wide array of movies. So you could
Yeah,
probably go from all sorts of different genres,
I like
you
him
know.
as a Jedi personally. Um, yeah, there's something about the interrelated plot lines of this film I really like too. Jurassic Park really is. If you like dinosaurs, it's great, but if you like corporate espionage, this is also really the film for that too. This is like before
Mm,
we had like a lot of internet. Jurassic Park works because if you have too much internet, it doesn't work as well. If you have like no internet at all, it also doesn't work. Like you need just amount the amount of technology they had they were thinking of in 93 in order
mm,
for this Dennis Nedry plot to work. A fun fact about the book, again, that is a little different. The reason, so there are two T-Rex attacks in the book. The first one is the one in the book that happens during the daytime, which is the nighttime rain scene in the film with the flipped over Jeep, which is a really cool sequence that you have to do that's like a puzzle in the video game. The second one is that T-Rex's sister or kid, who is part of the reason the power goes down at the park the first time. Like canonically,
mm,
they like are the one breaking through their cage the first time. So like in the book, you get a sense of long before the characters know the danger, you know the danger. So there's sort of that Hitchcock bomb is underneath the table, but only you as the audience can see the bomb sort of thing.
mm.
Um, and so I really appreciate the kind of the ramping up of the danger, and you can like choose which plot line really matters to you. Like if you're all in about the hey, we made a dinosaur, it's great. But if your dad is like, I don't really like dinosaurs, but your dad is like a corporate espionage guy, like your dad can love it for the corporate espionage because it's like the other half of the film as they're trying to escape.
Mm. That touches on something you said earlier about like this concept, this franchise feels it has lots of stories to tell. Um, and it definitely feels that in the first film, you're scratching the surface of a lot of stuff that's going on in the background. Like, we only see like a snapshot of them creating the dinosaurs on the island, for example. There was obviously a lot of story about what the scientists were up to beforehand and how they went about it and like who was the first dinosaur they created, who was the first success. BD Wong has always come across as a very gray kind of character. um I haven't watched the most recent couple of Jurassic World movies, so I don't know how much of a villain he goes into or something, but he was always coming across as like the park. He was in the employ of the park, but it wasn't like his be all and end all, if that makes sense.
In the book, it's more clear. Like
Ooh.
he gets corrupted by the idea of the park.
Ooh.
Actually, like the book, like you see it more in the later films when he comes back. But the first book,
Mm,
especially, his character is he kind of becomes enraptured by the idea of creating dinosaurs. So he sort of goes into this like god complex things, and so he gets
oh wow.
eaten becomes the whole thing. I guess probably the thing that kills Hammond in the book, which is the combies, are also the thing that are in Costa Rica at the beginning of the book. So I would venture to say the combies were the first dinosaurs created, but I don't have enough information to know if that's accurate. Please don't send me letters.
Uh, that's quite right. So he actually dies in the book, but survives in the film.
Yeah, he goes on to like three more films. Like
Mm,
they just basically like so the books also resurrect Ian Malcolm, the Jeff Goldblum character who everyone thinks dies in the first book. Like he gets resurrected by Crichton for the second and third book, I think. So in the original book, if you think he's dead and they just wanted to bring Jeff Goldblum back for subsequent novel or subsequent movies, you would not be forgiven for thinking that because it got retconned in the book series itself. So yeah,
How interesting. Hmm. Yes. It just makes me think of where else they could take these films. I know that they featured some aquatic dinosaurs, but I believe that they haven't actually done a full-on like Jurassic Ocean or what would you call it? Jurassic Sea World?
are the Chris Pratt movies Jurassic Park SeaWorld? Because I've only seen the first one, but the video games, the Lego Jurassic Park games, and his portion of them, um, make it seem like it goes from the island where it's all Earth-based and does kind of descend into sort of Jurassic Sea World, for lack of better terminology.
Um, to a degree, I mean they have aquatic dinosaur exhibitions, but then you could argue that why would it not be called Jurassic um Air Dome? Because they've got a massive dome where the all the flying dinosaurs live and such, and that plays, I would argue, as big a part of the movie as the sea water element does, except for like the very last moment. But spoilers. Um, so it does feel like it's more of a Jurassic World because they cover land, sea, and sky in equal measure. I suppose what I was thinking is I was thinking if it was more like primarily set within like an ocean habitat, like they built a giant floating park out in the sea somewhere or on the coastline, and they've got just like aquatic dinosaurs on display.
I guess technically sharks are just aquatic dinosaurs, and I guess because we've already done Deep Blue Sea, I don't know if Jurassic Shark has as much impact as Jurassic Park. I would enjoy that though. Yeah,
Jurassic Megalodon.
Jurassic Megalodon.
Mhm. Yes. Mm. But this is great to have this sort of discussion because it shows that it is quite a versatile idea. And what they've covered so far is really just a fraction of what they could actually delve into. Um, have we ever covered woolly mammoths in Jurassic Park?
I mean, we haven't, but I've read Clan of the Cave Bear, and they haven't made a good film adaptation of that in a very long time. So I would enjoy Jurassic Clan of the Cave Bear. That'd be a lot of fun.
A Jurassic Tundra, get saber-toothed tigers, and well, it would pretty much be then live action Ice Age at that point. But hey, I mean,
I
there's
wouldn't
some
complain about that.
no, I wouldn't either. There's some energy in that. Um,
I do think one thing they get right that they try to explore more as the films go on, especially that you don't see as much of in the first one. You sort of see glimpses of it with the Raptors being called, clever girl and being smart. But Crichton's dinosaurs in the book are incredibly smart. Like they're incredibly good at working in groups, working together in a way that our military has not seemed to have been able to do in quite a while. Um, here in America at least. But yeah, there's something very interesting about the dinosaurs got smarter and they almost caught up to the dinosaurs that Crichton created
hmm,
for the film. Now, what's interesting is that we didn't have the technology at the time to figure out that they were all just basically big birds, so they are more lizard-like. So I wonder if somebody now making Jurassic Park would make a more concerted effort outside of the legacy to craft dinosaurs that were more bird-like or had feathering. I'd be curious about
hmm,
that because Jurassic World kind of lives in the shadow of Jurassic Park. So it feels like it can't really do other dinosaurs like it has to do dinosaurs that look like the Crichton dinos, you know?
hmm. Yes, it's possible that you could go into some sort of spin-off territory or a spiritual sequel. and do it like that. But speaking of which, I suppose the Jurassic World movies are soft remakes, or even though they're continuations of the narrative. Um, I'm slightly surprised. Maybe they were looking to at one point just do a complete reboot of Jurassic Park. Um, I
The
mean, I'm glad
thing,
they didn't, but
if you play the
sorry.
Jurassic Park video games, if you play the
Mm,
big compilation that has all of them in it, they make the Jurassic World movies feel more of a continuation. It feels like a sequel because you can still bring in the other characters into them, but they just feel like new areas essentially.
mm,
But the films do feel really different. I think the Jurassic World films are aware more of trying to hyper make Chris Pratt a star outside of the Guardians franchise. But it's a different sort of blockbuster. It's not quite as effortless. The merchandising is more exhausting and more obvious. In a way, I think it does all of the things that we don't like about Batman and Robin. Yeah, as well. It seems like too self-aware in a way that Crichton's books are not. Crichton knows what he's writing, but he writes with an intelligence, and I'm not saying they're not intelligent. But a Jeep is much more grounded than a bubble hamster car, for instance. Like the bubble hamster car feels like a little too show off in a way that
mm.
I don't know if it advances theories. And that's something that's kind of exciting for me to debate is does that hamster bubble car, heighten the series, heighten the tension, or is it just like Hollywood showing off? Is it just another, Avatar, we're making a Blue Smurf movie in space, Avatar happen, kind of thing.
Do you think it's a bit too? I know these films are sci-fi, but do you
Yeah.
think that it leans a bit too heavy with the blue sphere thing into kind of gimmickiness, like technology? We have to feel that we're including some sort of advanced tech here rather than a Jeep. In a way, we're looking at the Jeep and saying that's the product of the past. This is the brand new, super hyper aware AI controlled um, luxury sphere or something.
I think for me, because I'm such a big fan of kind of the Jules Verne sci-fi
Mm,
aesthetic that has kind of that more bronze and gold, and it's a little bit more Art Deco. It all sort of feels away for me. I think probably even the Chaos of Jupiter Ascending, which I didn't hate as much as everybody else hated, is sort of overshadowed by the fact that it's so spacey. Um, it just feels like it's making a pot shot at the Jeeps with no real reason to. Like, there's no reason you
yeah,
can't have a Jeep and a bubble car. Like, let me choose my car,
yeah.
sort of
Well,
thing.
why not a monorail? Like, why not if you want to give people their own little cabs that they can, like, have a little
Okay.
bit more control over and stop and look at things.
One thing you have to understand about Americans is we hate public transit. So if we
Uh,
have to deign to be in a car with other people, it has to be a separate car that burns carbon emissions. Public
uh,
transit is for nerds, squares, and Europeans, and we don't do that in America. Um, I'm only saying that half joking, sadly. But yeah, no, if they're gonna do an American blockbuster, Snowpiercer is the only time the American blockbuster has ever taken on public transit that I can think of. And well, we all saw Snowpiercer. Well, most people saw Snowpiercer.
um, okay. You have me there. I will hold up my hands and I'll admit, yes, thinking about it now, I know of the general American viewpoint of trains and buses to a degree as well. Um,
I,
so
I
I can
mean,
see where you're
we're we're wrong about it. I mean, if the car companies hadn't done a concerted effort in the 1940s, especially to get rid of public transit, we'd probably have better public transit here, and we should have better public transit as they continue to destroy Greyhound and sell it off piece by piece. And Amtrak continues to not get priority over grain cars and stuff like that. Yeah, we should have a much different relationship with public transportation, especially considering how big our country is. But yeah, you see that reflected in our films. Like
Yeah.
There was no reason they couldn't have a monorail in the Chris Pratt parks. And that's just good product placement right there. Like a dinosaur monorail. Who wouldn't want to buy
Yeah.
something like that for their very own bedroom?
Okay. I have a question for you. I know we're lingering on Jurassic World at the minute,
Yeah.
but I feel it's ripe for this sort of speculation and such. So,
Or Jurassic World Dominion and whatever they're calling the second half. Because technically Jurassic World is, I think, the second film itself is Jurassic World. So this is like the ones where it's like Fallen World, New Dominion, and stuff like that. The Chris Pratt
yeah,
ones, like not no, Lost World was the second one. Okay, yeah. So
yeah.
Jurassic World is fine. I think it's fine to call it that. Yeah.
Um, so I'm thinking about cost here. So I'm thinking Jurassic Park versus Jurassic World for the consumer's pocket. Um, Jurassic Park obviously would feel like in that time and place would probably feel very expensive, tropical island location and such. However, like the Jeeps, as much as they were sort of like individualistic, you could probably get 3 to 4 passengers on it with a driver, etc. Although they were automated to a degree as well or something. Sorry, I'm trying to stretch my memory back. Anyway, regardless of that, they were it felt like there was a certain cost to it, and it would probably be more for a luxury holiday maker, but it still feel affordable. Jurassic World, yes, I saw lots of tourists around and such, but how much were they spending for that kind of holiday? How much cost did it have to upkeep the park and like feed all those dinosaurs to manage all the park employees? Those spheres that we were talking about, this is what triggered it off. Thinking about it, how much would those spheres cost to maintain?
I have a bit of an answer for you, and it's
Ooh.
based on something you're really going to hate. This is my personal theory, is that the Jurassic World movies, which by the way are number two and number three on the highest grossing. Actually, no, they're the top three highest grossing Jurassic Park films in the franchise. The first Jurassic Park is actually number four of the highest grossing in the franchise, and Lost World is number five. I think Jurassic World is too aware of Disney World, and there's too much of a model that looks suspiciously close to Disney World in some ways, I feel like. And the average Disney World cost before you pay for food, even in some cases, is about 10 grand. So you could
Mm,
easily, for four adults, spend 30 grand for like 7 days at a park. Now, I wouldn't do that because, like, after day five, I get exhausted at Disney World, which is why I stick to Disneyland. But I think I think Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, the Jurassic World movies don't have the same benefit in which Jurassic Park had, which is Jurassic Park can be its own thing. It doesn't have to feel like Disneyland. It doesn't have to feel like Disney World. It doesn't have to feel like Knott's Berry Farm. It doesn't have to feel like another experience, which is something I think Jurassic World arguably might be trying too hard to be so different. It starts to feel Disney World-ish. I don't know. I haven't done any research on that. I could be completely wrong. But Jurassic Park and Lost World feel like they're trying to be something different that is on its own. It's like The Fifth Element feels like it's a different sort of science fiction, and that's part of why I love it so. Even with all of its flaws. But yeah,
mm,
Jurassic Park doesn't feel like it's trying to be anything than what it is. The Chris Pratt Jurassic World movies feel like Jurassic Park brought to you by Disney in some ways. Like every other year when they start making a new King Kong film with whoever is the new Jack Black, like it just feels like it's trying to be it's either trying to ape something too much or it's trying to be its own thing too much. Now, a lot of people like Jurassic World films because it has the top three grossing Jurassic Park franchise films. But like the re-releases of the Jurassic Park franchise are all in the top 11 as well. So people really still like the original park. They
mm.
really like what Steven Spielberg and Michael Crichton envisioned together in that first film. And I think there's something really cool and special about Jurassic Park in that it captures the imagination in the world in the way that Jurassic World feels like you're just watching a dinosaur blockbuster. Now, I am in the minority there because people love Jurassic World. They love the Chris Pratt movies, and I think the first Jurassic World is cool, but Jurassic Park feels effortless, and Jurassic Park feels like a survival ride, and you feel that in the Lego video games as well. Um, it feels like it's more talking about ethics, whereas Jurassic World feels more like it's talking about, interpersonal relationships in a way that feels a little more distracting than it did with Sam Neill and Laura Dern's characters.
Mm.
But that's my personal opinion. I have different opinions than people on a variety of topics, and that's probably just one of them.
It's quite all right, sir. At the end of the day, we have a lot
Yeah.
that we have a world of different opinions and such.
And it's not
And
bad. I
no,
begrudge
no,
no
no.
one their love over Jurassic World. It's just Jurassic Park has such a different vibe that's such filled with such more wonder. And I
Mm,
don't know if it's a mix of the same CGI and puppet that we saw in Jumanji, but that CGI just feels and looks so much more realistic and better in a lot
mm,
of ways. People still say that actually. Like I
mm,
still see it every now and then across like my Instagram, where like people are like, why does CGI look like it does? Here's what it looked like in Jurassic Park. Why is it so soulless now? And it's because you only get 8 months to pump out the film, so that's what you get. Like Jurassic Park, they took time
mm,
with, they were still learning it. So like warts and all, it's a
yeah.
beautiful film, CGI wise.
Mm. They were still learning techniques, but I would also argue that considering what they ended up with, Jurassic Park does feel like a work of art in a way. Because of the fact that it invokes such a range of emotion in the viewer through all the sensory delights that you see, and it takes you. It actually think about it, it is like um, a play at the end of the day. It takes the audience through moments of wonder, then stark terror, and you feel like you're watching a performance before your eyes.
Yeah, that great moment where Sam Neill has to like Sam Neill has to turn Laura Dern's head so she sees the dinosaur because she gets so hyper focused on the big pile of poo. That's something we experience with her. Like we experience the awe of that first moment of
Mm,
like seeing dinosaurs, of that evocative moment of holy crap, there are dinosaurs, which is probably what you said your great aunt put this film on for you.
yes.
I think she was probably wanting you to have the moment of awe, not the moment of terror. I am 90% sure that's what
I
it was.
I would love to defend her, but I feel that she just wasn't aware of what the film truly was about. I don't know if she was expecting to show me that. I just think that she'd read in the TV book that it was about dinosaurs and decided to put it on for me. But this was not Barney.
No, no. If there's one thing Jurassic Park is not, it is not Barney. That is for darn sure. Actually,
Yeah.
what's interesting is we see this a lot in film with dinosaurs, where it takes the idea of a dinosaur and turns it into something that could be friendly or menacing. So the other kind of
Mm,
version of this is my version of kind of the early dinosaur fairy tale, which is we're back a dinosaur story. And we're back is the cartoon one where the dinosaurs get this brain food cereal and they become really smart and they sound like John Goodman, and then they get brain drain and then they become evil and they can't talk at all. And that has like a sinister steampunk circus in it. Um, so like there's really the like dinosaurs don't come with any particular like the
mm,
dinosaur field is open. Dinosaurs evoke emotion. And I think it's really neat.
mm. And it's great how I've always felt that Jurassic Parks has the potential of its storytelling, as we have touched upon in our conversation, to go in different directions. Um, for example, there was always the thing of like, "Ooh, what if the dinosaurs get loose and go out of control?" It feels like it would go down like perhaps the pathway then of Planet of the Apes, where the dinosaurs like take over, and then we see like mankind trying to find a new sort of status quo, living in a world where they're no longer the dominant species. Or it could go down the Dinotopia route, where, oh, we've incorporated dinosaurs into our life, but we're living side by side and we're singing happy songs. And oh, look, that Stegosaurus is giving that child a piggyback ride.
I do have to say I don't hold out a lot of hope for the Dinotopia route, if only because, again,
Yeah.
dinosaurs are, as we've learned from Jurassic Park, animals that are
Yes.
wild. So,
Ah,
Lost World itself does the job where it starts to really look at how vicious they are. Um,
yes.
and that's one thing that like the Jurassic Park universe, even with Chris Pratt like zookeeping the animals, does not like cherry coat the fact that animals, at the end of the day, no matter how clever they are still like animals that live by the four animal instincts. And you have to be wary of the dinosaur.
Yes.
Jurassic Park is the ultimate. We did not stop to think that we should. We just did, sort of thing.
That is true. I will give you that. There is a great lesson within the film about mankind getting arrogant and hubristic about whether how much we can control nature and shape it against what nature will end up doing of its own accord. I'll give you that.
Arrogance in humanity? I never. I'm shocked. I can't believe that at all.
I can't believe it's not dinosaur butter.
It's
Um, However, I will counter you, sir, with pointing out another theme within Jurassic Park that we haven't so much touched upon yet, but could prove my Dinotopia route. The genetic engineering slash genetic modification. It was something that was touched upon, and we saw it with the gender swapping due
yes.
to the amphibian data. They continued it definitely into Jurassic World because of the fact that they made that horrific hybrid dinosaur that was suddenly like becoming the new alpha and such. I don't think it's a great step to say that, they might very well give a like just out of sort of like either as an experiment for the sake of it or an experiment to create a dinosaur that can kind of be the mascot for the park to give a dinosaur like increased intelligence. Um, I think that could very much be the case. They might even make a horrible human dinosaur hybrid thing that could be their version of Mickey Mouse.
I mean, I've seen Bendy in the Ink Machine. I've never played it, but I've seen it played, and it feels like Jurassic 3 might meet like have that kind of thing. Um, I'm just reading the Wikipedia real quick on Jurassic 3, but I feel like one of the Jurassic movies must have explored the idea, like maybe one of the kind of secondary points of the Chris Pratt ones are about the idea of the intelligence and working together. Because I know the idea of InGen, the happy little InGen mascot, doesn't exist in the books. It only exists in the films and the video games. So I wonder if like the mascot InGen is trying to fill that void. I'm not sure. I guess
Well,
well, yeah.
they did go on about the velociraptors being incredible pack hunters and very intelligent, and how the hybrid dinosaur was able to sort of like put them under his thumb, so to speak.
Yes.
Um, so that's what the thing. Like they've always had this running, like subtle running theme of us messing with nature by trying to edit it to be what we want it to be, and the fact of it coming around and kicking us in the nether regions.
I mean, we can't control dinosaurs. If we've learned nothing from the Jurassic Park series, it's that we have very little control over the nature, which is kind of a thing in Michael Crichton's books, is that in trying to do science and one up nature, we always, whether it be robots, bees, or dinosaurs. We cannot one up nature, and nature does not like when we attempt to do so. That is really the big overarching plot is Michael Crichton, except in his final book, which is what is it called? It's about Hawaii. It got posthumously released a couple years back, and I haven't read it yet. Um, but like something about the way Michael Crichton wrote science, which I think is what made the first Jurassic Park so good in a lot of ways, is that it's so, even if it feels impossible in some ways and a little Star Trekky in others, it's so like solid science wise, which is weird to say where it feels both Star Trekky and also solid at the same time. But
Mm.
like this is the sort of thing that like this is a dinosaur lovers movie, like a dinosaur scientist, like a paleo. I can't think of I can't think a paleontologists must love the Jurassic Park film. Either they love it or they hate it. I can't imagine there's any in between. Like this is Jurassic Park is the movie that inspires you to do paleontology. And then uh yeah, I assume so. I don't know any paleontologists. If I ever meet one, I'll ask how they liked Jurassic Park, which I'm sure they get all the time, question wise.
But they probably view it as because they don't view it as probably that factual. I don't know how many of them would get that annoyed about it, unless, of course, it was putting out a real untruth to the world. And maybe that's, the fact that dinosaurs don't have the feathers in Jurassic Park
To be fair,
might
we
be that.
didn't know, or if we knew, it was still a while away from being published. It's like the dinosaurs had feathers thing is like a new thing. Like there was definitely not anyone telling that in like '93 that I know of.
Exactly. And that comes back to the whole thing about Jurassic Park is both a product of its time and yet doesn't feel like it's dated, that you can't enjoy it for what it is. And I suppose if you're really going to go look into it, you're watching a film about dinosaurs that are the attractions at a theme park. It's pure escapism at the end of the day. And you just have to switch your mind off and enjoy it for the sheer spectacle of terror and wonder that it is.
Yeah, and I love that. I kind of like that as an ending point to this episode too, and not just because my headphones are acting weird again. But I think that's a fantastic way to end the episode with that sort of wistful, wonderful note.
Mm.
I really enjoyed talking about childhood nightmares with you, and I hope if you've seen Jurassic Park recently, even if you're scared of that opening scene, that you still had just as much fun as you had probably the second time you saw it. I will say you didn't have as much fun the first time, but at least the second time.
Oh, indeed. And hopefully it might make you want to go back and watch the original trilogy
Yeah.
and enjoy it, and maybe even compare it to the current um quadrilogy or whatever it is, or however many movies to come out, and just see how it's changed in the decades between releases.
Which isn't bad, but I think that first Jurassic Park is just so wonderful. It would ever be hard to really say any of them really truly compete with that first one.
Mm.
Speaking of things that compete, the episode we have next for the other part of November is one of probably the biggest and best franchises in all of human history. At least I think so. And it's one that has endured and lasted through so many things, the same way Jurassic Park had. And I'm very excited to talk about it with you, Magnus. And we'll talk about it next time on Everything is Gay, Even the Straight Stuff. Happy November, everyone.
Bye bye.